So it's now time to start on implementing the CRUD side of our application in our client app. And what we're going to start with is we're going to add some organization into our client application. And what we have at the moment is just a very flat file structure inside the source directory inside our client app. And we want to add some organization inside here. Now, if you were to search for a recommended way to structure React projects, you would likely end up in the React documentation in the section entitled File Structure. And somewhat infuriatingly, you'll find this quite often, that React doesn't have opinions on how you put files into folders, and React is very unopinionated. They, generally speaking, leave it up to you to decide how you want to organize your projects. Now, your computer and React doesn't care how you organize your code. It doesn't make any difference to performance. And file and folder structure is really for humans, so that we can locate our code easily and quickly. But there are a couple of different approaches that people use that they've identified in here. And one way is to structure your projects by grouping by features. And in our application, it's mostly based around activities, but we're also going to have users as well. And we can group our files together by the particular feature. Another approach is to group by file type and have, in this particular example, a folder for API code and a folder for components. Now, my preference is to group by features. And my preference may be different to your preference, but for this particular course, this is the structure that we're going to go with. Now, I'm going to head back to VS Code, and inside the source folder, what I like to do is add two new folders. One is called App, and the other one is called Features. So I'm just going to create these two new folders. And inside the App folder is code that's going to be specific to the application as a whole, and then for individual features, I'll add them inside this features folder. Now, inside the app folder, I'm going to create another new folder, and this one's going to be called Layout. And this is going to contain all of the components and code that are related to the layout of our application. Now, I'm going to start moving some files into this, but there's also a bunch of files that we don't actually need inside here. We don't need the app.css, so that's going to go in the trash. Also, the app.test.tsx. We're not actually covering testing on this course at this stage, so this is also going to be deleted. The app.tsx I'm going to move inside the layout folder, so I'm just going to move that in there. The index.css I'm actually going to rename to a more general purpose styles file, and I'm just going to call this styles.css. And once again, I'm just going to move this inside the layout folder. The logo.svg can be removed. We're not actually using that anymore, so I'm just going to delete this. And then the rest of it I'll keep the same. So this is what we're aiming for at this stage. Just two additional folders, an app folder with a layout folder, and inside here, app.tsx and styles.css. And then our index file can live directly inside the root of our source folder. So we'll need to update the references inside the index.tsx file. The import of the style sheet is going to be different. So instead of index.css, this is going to be app/layout/styles.css. And VS Code sometimes will automatically update the references in files as well, and it has done so for our app component, but please double check that yours matches this. And we'll also need to make some adjustments to our app.tsx as well, because we're no longer using the app.css. Now, what we should find is that when we go and browse to our React application, that everything is still working. And in my case, that is the case. So with our new folder structure in place, what we'll do next is we'll adjust our code to go and get the activities from our API instead of just these values. And we'll look at that next.